Well, hello, this is Divine 219 Lady, and I am coming to bring you some information, some insight. Um, I wanted to let you guys know about this extreme weather. Also, I wanted to, I guess, just let you know about a couple of dreams my son had and I had, and basically bring back an old phenomenon. Well, I'm not gonna say phenomenon, but an extreme occurrence that happened so many years ago that people thought it was the end of the world, end times, because everything happened all around the same time. So stick with this video. I'm not going to keep you long, but I want you to be engaged. I probably will put a couple of links in the description so that some of the things that I'm talking about you can reference and kind of follow through on your own. Very exciting. A lot of stuff I have on my phone, but I'm using my phone for my video content. So please bear with me. I'm going to go off my memory as much as I can. So first things first, I screenshotted several different extreme weather phenomena that happened over the past 4 to 5 days in many different states and countries relating to massive flooding, relating to extreme with high winds, tornadoes, and things of that nature. And when after I did my video the other day about extreme weather, I just happened to go on Google and look up extreme weathers that happened like within the last couple of days. And so many different topics of different floodings from different states in the within the United States and in other countries that the news don't often display, that I was like, I wonder is anyone else like focusing in on this stuff and paying attention to how the weather is lately. The they're talking about the famine because of the high impact of the heat levels. This is just not it's just not here, it's in other countries. They're talking, I know Europe was named, I know Virginia, North Carolina, Texas, um, oh, I wish I could remember all of the places. Just different outside the country as well, just outside of Europe, other places as well. And I'm like, is it just me, or is this really, are we really at the end? This is not just end times, we are at the end. The generation, we're at the end. We're at the end of all of that. So talk about that. I'll put it in the description as well, the details of the different places that had extreme weather, such as the flooding, the extreme heat, the tornadoes, and I'll put all of that. I'll be thorough with that so you guys can take a look at that, okay? Next, I want to talk about the dream my son had. My son is almost 30, and he's not prophetic or anything like that, but he's been having, I don't want to say dreams and visions, but he's been getting some peculiar dreams lately that I would include in my dreams and visions video log or video playlist. So I'm gonna try to remember everything he said, but just pay attention. He said he was in a dark atmosphere where it was more so like an infirmary or some type of dungeon where there was nothing but fire everywhere. And all he heard was agony and screams and cries. And he was being shown this particular place. And as he looked at the people that were in agony and that were screaming and in moaning and discomfort, he noticed that their bodies were engulfed in flames, but they weren't burning, but they were experiencing the burns, the fire, the agony from being tormented by this fire. but yet they were never being consumed by the fire. So it was continuous torment. And he said, Mom, I needed to let you know I had a dream a couple days ago, and this is what it was. It was like somebody was showing me this, like I was being shown this. That's interesting. Now, let's push on to the dream I had. Was it last night? No, yes, last night. So, and this is a short dream, and I don't get it. Now, my atmosphere was black. I was outside, I was driving in my car, and I didn't know which way to go. I came into the fork of the road. Now, there was a stop sign to my right, and right before the stop sign, it was an area where I could pull over and park before making a right or left turn. So I pulled over to the right to pull out my mobile phone so that I can look at the directions so that I wouldn't make a wrong turn. Now, mind you, I kept my foot on the brake because if I put my car in park, my doors automatically unlock. And because of the area I was in, and it was pitch black everywhere, there was no street lights. It wasn't even a star or moon out. And I just was like, can't see anything except for what my headlights would show. And so as I'm sitting in the car, I look down at my phone, but I'm still paying attention to my surroundings, and I happen to see a figure go past my car at a distance holding some type of weapon, and I want to say it was a knife. And when I seen that, I immediately put my phone up, and I just I left my foot off the brakes and made a right turn and just kept going. So, and I woke up. So I don't know the significance of that dream. I don't know what that meant. I really don't. But that was a dream I wanted to share with you guys as well. Now, I don't know if you all remember this earthquake that happened in Lisbon, Europe, at the year 1755. And this is what I'm going to have in the description link. Not only was there a massive earthquake, but what followed was a tsunami. And once that tsunami happened, then a massive fire broke out in the same area. And 30 to 60,000 people actually died from this occurrence. Now, from what I can recall from watching and reading about this, is that Lisbon was an area where people were churchgoers. This was like the Roman Catholic Empire, or, area for where the Roman Catholics were at the highest peak. They had the saints and things of that nature. So it wasn't a special event going on that day. I think it's the celebration of the saints or something. And it was a church. There were several churches that felt the rumble to the earthquake. This earthquake happened, and then next thing you know, the foundations of all of these churches just fell on people. The ones that could escape ran to the harbor where water's typically at for the sea. But when they got there, because it was known as a shelter area for earthquakes, so things wouldn't fall down on them, they noticed that there was no water in sight. They looked at each other and was like, where is all the water? Where's the sea? What happened to the sea? And they sat there stunned because they made it to this shelter area, but there were no boats, there was no sea, there was nothing, just nothing where it would normally be. It was completely dry. So this earthquake happened at 9:40 a.m. in Lisbon. At 10:10 a.m., a tsunami 2 stories high come rushing in where those people were at that harbor where they were all standing seeking shelter from the earthquake. Here comes this 2-story high tsunami that crashed against them and killed many of them that were there. Maybe 1 or 2 people survived that just by luck, but that tsunami hit and killed more people. So now, not only are we facing massive deaths on the earthquake from all of those churches that was going on, but then the ones that thought they were saved and safe, here comes a tsunami who kills them off, and then we have a couple of people left. So now, Once that happened, so remember, we have this magnitude earthquake, we have this high rise tsunami came out of nowhere, strange phenomenon because normally the harbor is filled with water, there was no water. And then because of the earthquake and the many candles that was lit in those churches for the celebration, for the celebration and rituals or whatever they do at those churches, the candles fell down and caught fire. And because of how Lisbon was set up and those churches was set up, the wind factor contributed to building the fire and making it a snowball effect where it became so massive that it consumed everything in its path. Now, this is an interesting story because at that point, people thought that our Maker was the one who was doing all of this. But what they couldn't understand is, why were all of the churches affected and the neighboring areas affected, but not the brothels? None of those whoredom places were affected, not one. And so they began to be discouraged, saying, what type of God will kill people in church but keep the whorehouse up? Question mark. Now, how I'm thinking about it is that maybe he was saying that because of their worship in a different God, this made him angry. And why the brothels was left standing was to indicate this was a whoredom area. Okay? They were committing adultery with their faith, their religion, their spirituality, and maybe that was a sign to say, you guys were prostitutes. You guys were, like I said, you were being a whore, committing adultery, and this is not to happen. Now, you have many people who said this was just a natural disaster. This had nothing to do with the hands of God, nothing. And so it was one guy who took over and he became a dictator who cleaned up Lisbon. Now, let's move on to, I believe, was 1833. Still in Europe, the Day of Darkness. Now, I think the Day of Darkness, I think this is 53 years. I don't know how many years. It could be 53 years later. I don't know, less than 100 years later. We have the Day of Darkness that fell. Everybody got up on a perfect, let's just say Monday morning. And what they noticed is that people got up to go to work. Their alarm clocks went off. Everybody went to take their dogs for a walk, their natural routine of going to work and school. And they noticed that the sun was not up. They noticed that there was a fog illuminating over the entire areas where they all lived at. Not only there, but it was so massive around that time. Remember, there was no cell phone, so they couldn't call and see if it was going on other parts of the world. They just knew in their world, that part of the world that it lived in, this is what happened. So usually the rooster crows and comes out. They didn't know what to do, so they went back inside. The dogs, the animals were aware that it wasn't in daytime, according to the story, and they went back inside. People were like, what is going on? A day of darkness. The moon was pink, like a reddish tone color. The sun was black, and then the stars fell. Another phenomenon. So imagine the earthquake years before, the tsunami, the fire, and then several years later, you have darkness over the land. Now, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 days or if it was several hours. I cannot remember that right now. But what I do know is that it did happen, and people were trying to pray. People were trying to say, this is our doomsday. We need to get it together. This is the Lord doing these types of things, and we need to pray and repent and so on and so forth. So if they thought then that that was the end times with that massive stuff going on, I want to add to that. If you think about our times now. And this was 200 years ago when all of this stuff happened. If you think of our time right now, and we haven't had a major earthquake, tsunami, and the atmosphere just pitch black dark, or the moon red from and the sun sackcloth black and all of that. We're not even at that stage, but everybody's saying this is the end time. Imagine when the rapture occurs and the restrainer is moved and the tribulation starts and the trumpets sound and the seals are broken, the bowls, so on and so forth. Imagine the earthquake that now at that time when that happens versus what happened 200 years ago when it killed 30 to 60,000 people. Imagine when God's wrath hits the earth and all of these things that people were like, oh, this is doomsday years ago. You really face it into its extreme measures, to the maximum that God wants to deliver all of this. Hail the size of a talent, 100-pound hail. Can you imagine 100 pounds just falling from the sky and people still not repenting? Can you imagine earthquakes so massive the mountains are moving and falling? Can you imagine that? People, this message is for all of those who do not believe that we are in our end times, who don't believe in Jesus, who don't know that he died and rose again for our salvation so that we are covered under grace. And everything that we do from that point on will be driven by the Holy Spirit, that God will guide you to know what to do. Imagine a massive earthquake, 10 times worse than the earthquake that happened in Lisbon. Imagine a tsunami that takes place, massive amounts of water. Not just in that area, but all over. Imagine the hail falling. Imagine the sun that never goes out and supplies so much extreme heat. We think we're hot now. We're thinking we're hot now. 102 weather, some places like Texas, here 99, maybe 100. Then the heat index factor that goes into the teens of the hundreds, 113, 110 degrees. Imagine that intensified, and then our fans go out, our air conditioners go out, our central air go out. Any mechanism that we would use to calm ourselves or cool ourselves goes out. And imagine that intensified. Then there's no crops because everything's burnt up. There's no water, everything's evaporated, and the ones that's not evaporated, maybe the water's turned to blood. Tribulation is going to be the worst time ever for those who are not saved in the rapture. And God is waiting for the fullness of the Gentiles so that he can blow that trumpet and take us out so that he can administer his wrath. And all I'm asking is that it could be you that he's waiting on so that he can do what he needs to do to bring the end together, which is going to wake up the Antichrist if he's not already around. And they're going to behead people. Long time ago, I know you watch medieval movies, beheading was a thing of the past. Now think about it. In this day and age, there is no death penalty or the I can't even think of it. Death row, death by lethal injection gas or whatever the case may be. You're going to just get beheaded if you're not going to be tortured for taking the mark of the beast if you didn't take it. So make it easy for yourselves. There's no harm in believing in God, but you truly have to believe. You truly have to believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that he is God fully. He came in the flesh to warn us and give us salvation and grace. And he's back in heaven preparing a mansion for each and every last one of us for the wedding feast. I'm asking and encouraging everyone, please, 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 it could be you he's waiting on. Let it be you. That way we can all go. Don't just say, no, I don't believe this. this is all just natural phenomenon. Where did natural phenomenon come from? Let's get technical. Let's get deep. Where did natural phenomenon come from? And then when you tell me the answer to that, tell me where did that come from? And then when you answer that, tell me where did that come from? Okay? So it's going to go on and on and on. But from my beginning, Alpha and Omega, the Lord was always here from the beginning. There's nothing before him, and there will be nothing after him. So believe in him. He's the one that made the alligators, the crocodiles, the monkeys, the vicious lions, the polar bears, the jellyfish, everything that can potentially kill us that we fear. He made those. Fear him, because miracles happen. He can stop any one of those creatures from doing anything to you. He can stop this weather. So please check out the description. I will put the description link, the link for Lisbon. I'll put the link for the day of darkness. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 days. I'm not sure. Look into that and then do your own research. Just don't look at those links, but that'll be a direction so that you'll know which way to go. But look how devastating each and every last one of those were. And I'm not even going to go back as far as climate change, quote unquote, from back in the day where there was a strange phenomenon with how the climate was reacting years ago as well. So imagine all those people who thought it was doomsday then. And we're talking about doomsday now, just with all of the technical stuff that's going on. But not really too much of the natural disasters that's going on, because people are looking at it because it's not a mass. It's not a massive thing going on right now. We see something and say mass shooting. Oh my goodness, look. But the La Palma volcano that happened, everybody thought that was a sign for something. Everybody, and it could have been, but no one was killed, and if they were, probably smoke or whatever, but the damage has not come yet to the point where it goes beyond the levels of Lisbon, the Europe situation with the darkness. We have not seen anything yet, and don't be here to see that. So that is it. I'll bring more later on this week if I get any more insight. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, share this video, leave a comment. Criticism is welcome. I don't mind. You enjoy the rest of your day.